Hi everyone, welcome back. So now in this session, let's see how can we actually carry out an arbitrage if the theoretical forward price is not equal to the market value of the forward price. All right. So we are now assuming a situation where the market value of the forward price that you see on your trading screen is not equal to the theoretical forward price that you actually calculated using your pen and paper. All right. Now, just for the purpose of rewriting it, the forward price that we actually found out was 1729. All right. So this is the theoretical forward price that we actually found out. So I'm writing as theory. Let us say the actual market price of the forward contract, not of the share, the actual market price of the forward contract. Let us say it was hypothetically, give me a second, maybe let me just cook up some number. Okay, maybe just let me write it as 1740. All right. So this is the actual market price of the forward contract. Now, if you logically give it a thought, according to you, there is a forward contract whose real value is 1729, but the market is actually pricing it at 1740. In the market, it's being valued at 1740. Now, just take a moment, pause this video, take a moment and think whether are you going to buy it or are you going to sell the forward. All right. Instead, actually take a step back. Forget about forward contracts. Let us say there is some asset. All right. There's maybe, let's say, there is some land. There's a piece of land which, in your view, is actually, let's say, $10,000. But in the market, it's actually available at $12,000. All right. You have a land which is worth 10,000. In the market, the price of it is $12,000. Are you going to buy more of that land, or are you going to sell the land that you already have? Just give it a thought. All right. If in the market the price of the any asset is greater than what you think of it, what are you actually going to do? Buy or sell? Just pause, and once you actually have an answer, just resume this video. So obviously, you're going to sell the asset. Reason being, in your view, in your opinion, it's only worth 10,000, whereas you're able to actually sell it and get 12,000 from it. So obviously, you have to actually sell the land that is actually available with you. Same is the case of forward contract as well. You think that the forward contract is worth 1729, whereas the actual market price of the forward contract is 1740. Therefore, what you need to actually be doing is you are supposed to actually sell the forward contract. All right. So sell the forward contract because the forward contract is overpriced. All right. So carefully just look at the words that I'm using it. The forward contract is overpriced. Why are we calling it as overpriced? Because in the market, the price of the asset is greater than what you actually think it is worth. All right. So you sell the forward because the forward is overpriced. All right. Now, when you sell the forward, one second. Now, when you sell the forward, it basically means you have taken a short position. All right. So selling the forward is also going to be called as taking a short position. Now, whatever you're doing in the forward market, you are supposed to do the opposite of it in the spot market. Spot market is nothing but your shares market. Okay, whenever we utter the word spot or cash market, what we are referring to is the shares. All right, right now, the selling of forward took place in the derivative segment. Now we will do the opposite action of it in the cash segment or in the shares segment. All right, opposite of selling the forward is nothing but buying the share. So we actually buy the share today, right now, and we also sell the forward right now. All right. Now selling the forward does not have any cash inflow or cash outflow today. As at t equal to 0, selling the forward does not have any cash inflow or cash outflow, whereas buying the share actually has a cash outflow today. All right, buying the share actually has a cash outflow today, which is nothing but 1700. Now to actually pay that 1700, you have to go and borrow 1700 from the market. All right, because to buy the share you need money with you, right? And we are assuming that you're starting with a clean slate. You do not have any money in your hand, and because you do not have any money in your hand, you need to go into the market, borrow 1700 and then buy the share. So if you look at it, the first step is you borrow 1700 from the market, and you're borrowing it at the risk-free rate of interest. You're assuming that you're able to borrow at risk-free rate of interest of 7% per annum. All right. That is the first step. The second step is with the borrowed money, you will go and buy the shares in the cash market. All right. So the second step is you buy the share today. All right. So you actually paid 1700 in the second transaction. You received 1700 in the first transaction when you borrowed. In the second transaction, you've paid 1700. And the third transaction that you do today is you sell a 3-month forward contract or futures contract. You sell the 3-month forward contract. Now, all these actions, all these three actions are being done right today itself at t equal to 0. These actions are being done today at t equal to 0. All right. Now, what will you do now after this? Go to sleep for 3 months. You will not do anything for a period of 3 months. The share in your hand right now at t equal to 0, you actually have a share in your hand. The share may be dancing up, dancing down. It may be very volatile. It may go to infinity. It may fall down to 0. Still, you're supposed to actually sleep peacefully because you do not care about it. I'll tell you why you don't care about it. All right. Now, at t equal to 3, wake up. At t equal to 3, wake up, and then you honor the forward contract. Since you sold the 3-month forward contract, and remember over here, you sold the 3-month forward contract at 1740, which is the market price, guys. You sold the forward contract at the market price, remember. All right. Now at t equal to 3, what you will do is you remember that you have to honor the forward contract. All right. Since you have sold the forward contract at t equal to 0, at t equal to 3, assuming physical delivery, what you need to be doing is you will have to sell the share. Remember, you actually had a share at t equal to 0. You bought a share at t equal to 0, which means you have it in your hand right now. You need to actually deliver those shares. And when you deliver those shares, you will be receiving 1740 irrespective of the market price. Whatever the market price is on the at t equal to 3, you will still receive 1740 because that is the meaning of a forward contract. You have entered into a contract where you will receive 1740 and you will deliver one share irrespective of the market price of the share as at t equal to 3. So at t equal to 3, if you look at it, I'm writing it as step 4. You receive 1740 and you deliver the sharing that you had in your hand. All right. So the share that you actually had in your hand, you're actually paying back, you're actually delivering it, and you have received 1740. Is that the end of the story? The answer is no. Remember, you actually borrowed money from the bank, which you actually have to return it after the 3 months, right? So you borrowed money from the bank at 1700 at a rate of interest of 7% per annum. So how much is the maturity value of borrowings that you have to repay? Maturity value of borrowings is actually going to be equal to 1700 into 1.07 whole power 3 by 12. Now don't sit and calculate what this is going to be. This is going to be nothing but 1729, the same as what we actually calculated in the previous lecture. Okay, so I received 1740 and I only had to repay to the bank. This is repayment to the bank. I had to repay to the bank 1729, which means my net cash flow is actually equal to 1740 minus 1729, which is equal to rupees 11. All right. So my net cash flow, if you actually see, I have made a profit, and that is the reason we are calling it as arbitrage. The reason we are calling it as arbitrage is because this is a riskless profit. You have not taken any risk, and yet you have actually you have been able to earn a positive cash flow of rupees 11 at the end of the third month. All right, by taking no risk, you still were able to generate a positive cash flow, and that is nothing but a meaning of arbitrage. And why am I saying you have not taken any risk? The reason I'm saying is, over here you bought a share. Buying a share is a risky investment, but you have not standalone bought a share. You have actually simultaneously sold a 3-month forward contract. When you buy a share and you sell a 3-month forward contract, you have actually taken two opposite risks. All right, share, when you buy a share, the risk is that the share will fall down. When you sell a 3-month forward contract, the risk is that the price will actually go up. All right, and therefore buying the share and selling the contract are two separate risky transactions, but you've done them simultaneously in such a way that the risk is actually offsetting each other. So point number one, you have not taken any risk. Point number two, there was no cash outflow from your pocket at t equal to 0. If you look at it at t equal to 0, there was no cash outflow from your pocket. All right, because you borrowed money from the bank and you bought the share. So technically for you, the cash outflow at t equal to 0 was actually equal to it was actually nothing, it was actually nil. All right. So one, you did not take any risk. Two, you did not make any investment. And three, yet you actually earned a positive cash flow at t equal to 3. And this is nothing but arbitrage, where you do not make an investment and you do not take any risk, but yet you are actually able to generate a positive cash flow. That is nothing but that is nothing but you're able to earn an arbitrage profit. Now, remember always that arbitrage itself eliminates arbitrage opportunities. Now, is this 11 actually going to be an arbitrage opportunity forever? Like, can any number of people actually start making this arbitrage profit? The answer is no. This the Once people start entering into transactions, what would happen is, see, if you see over here, people, a lot of people are actually buying the share. Okay, when thousands of people start buying the share price will start going up. All right, the share price will start going up. There are many people who are selling the 3-month forward contract. Those who have actually identified this arbitrage opportunity, they will start selling the 3-month forward contract. So the forward contract price is going to fall down. So from 1700, maybe this will go, let's say, to 1710. From 1740, this will fall down. This will fall down to, let's say, 1735 or 32 or whatever. I'm just taking some random numbers. And also, if you see, there are multiple people who are borrowing at risk-free rate of interest of 7%. All right, and because there's too much of demand at 7%, this 7% which will also increase, let us say to 7.5%. All right, so if you actually see, the interest rate will go up because there's too much of demand at 7%. The price of the share will go up because there's again too much demand at 1700. Let's say it goes up to 1710, and the forward contract will fall because there is too much of supply at 1740. All right, there are too many people who are selling it simultaneously, because of which the forward contract price will actually reduce. Now you have the interest rates going up, you have the spot price of the share going up, and you have the forward price coming down, and they will move in such a way that equilibrium will be established. They will move in such a way that the market value, the 1735, is ultimately going to be equal to the theoretical forward price. But the theoretical forward price right now is no longer 1729. The theoretical forward price itself is going to change because the spot price and the interest rate have changed. All right, so the theoretical forward price will move slowly up to 1735, and the market price from 1740 is going to fall down to 1735, and then equilibrium will be established. Once equilibrium is established, obviously the arbitrage opportunity of 11 will no longer exist, and that arbitrage opportunity will vanish down to 0. All right, therefore, that is the reason we say arbitrage itself eliminates arbitrage. Which means when there are too many people who are trying to take an arbitrage of rupees 11, there's going to be simultaneous borrowing of at 7%. At a massive level, there's going to be too much of buying the share at 1700, and there's going to be too much of shorting the 3-month forward contract, because of which the prices will move, and their movement itself will ensure that there is no arbitrage in place. Obviously, nobody can give can give you, proper numbers saying at these set of numbers arbitrage will get eliminated. The numbers will move in a particular direction. We can tell the direction, but the quantum cannot be determined. All right, but what we are trying to say is, once they start moving in opposite directions, like share price will increase and forward price will decrease, equilibrium will be established, and the arbitrage opportunity will actually vanish. Now, before we end this lecture, there are two things that I would like to that I would like to actually mention. The first one is, this method of arbitrage is called as the cash and carry arbitrage. It's called the cash and carry arbitrage because we are borrowing cash and we are carrying the share up to t equal to 3. We've borrowed cash today and we have bought the share today, and I'm carrying the share in my pocket or in my bag. I'm carrying the share in my bag until t equal to 3. Therefore, this is called as cash and carry arbitrage. All right. So in case in the examination you're asked, what is the cash and carry arbitrage? It is nothing but where you're borrowing cash and you're actually buying the share. And the reason you have borrowed cash and bought the share is because the forward market price of the forward contract was greater than the theoretical forward price. The forward price is actually, or the forward contract is actually overpriced in the market, and therefore you sold the forward contract and you did the opposite of the transaction in the spot market or the cash market. All right. Now, remember the definition of arbitrage again. It is no investment, no risk, yet you're able to generate some positive cash flow. All right, which is what has happened actually over here. There was no investment, no risk, and yet you have been able to generate a positive cash flow of 11. All right. So this is called as cash and carry arbitrage. Now, the second point that I wanted to mention was while finding out while determining the theoretical forward price, we actually said that F is nothing but S into 1 plus RF whole power T. And the reason I said we are multiplying it with 1 plus RF whole power T is because I said we are trying to actually compound it, because S is actually standing as a cash outflow today, while F is standing as a cash outflow at T equal to 3. And therefore, we are actually compounding S to t equal to 3 to find out the forward price of the contract. Now, another way of actually looking at it is you are actually borrowing money. You're actually borrowing S today, and you're actually supposed to repay that money at t equal to 3. And therefore, this 1 plus RF whole power t is similar to that interest component on your borrowings. Just like how you actually over here, you found out that, okay, guys, MV over here is not market value. Please remember, it is maturity value. All right. I'm just writing it so that there's no confusion. Maturity value of borrowings. All right. You have found out the maturity value of borrowings as nothing but 1700 into 1.07 whole power 3 by 12. So 1700 was your principal. This one, by multiplying it with 1.07, you're basically trying to calculate principal plus interest. All right. Same way over here also in the formula of determination of forward price, S into 1 plus RF whole power T can be seen either as compounding of S into T equal to 3, or you can also think of it as where a person, for buying the share today, he would have actually borrowed money from the market, and his cost of acquiring that share is that principal borrowed plus also the interest that he needs to pay. All right. So under alternative one over here, the cost of the share is actually the amount of principal that he borrowed today, plus he also has to pay the interest at t equal to 3, and therefore the total cost under alternative one is actually the principal plus interest, which is what we are trying to do by multiplying S with 1 plus RF whole power T. All right. So I hope this video was clear, where the market MP over here is market price of the forward contract is greater than theoretical forward price. In the next video, we will see what will happen if the market value of the forward contract is less than the theoretical forward price. I will probably take an example, let's say of 1710 or something, and then we will see what will actually happen if the market value is 1710 and if the theoretical forward price continues to be 1729. All right, but please remember, guys, the theoretical forward price also is going to keep changing based on change in share price or based on change in interest rates. All right, so the theoretical forward price does not mean that once it is determined to be 1729, it's not going to be 1729 until the end of the third month. As your share price keeps changing and as your interest rate keeps changing, the theoretical forward price is also obviously going to change. All right, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.